James Bond 007, no big deal. How about Mossad? Who exactly is James Bond? James Bond is a fictional character in British literature and movies. He is often portrayed as an unrivaled spy, infamous womanizer, and manly symbol. He is also known as Agent 007, pronounced 007, in the British Secret Intelligence Service, or MI6. The codename 007 is significant. The 00 denotes the agent's license to murder, while the 7 denotes his identify inside MI6. James Bond is the only worldwide secret agent, with an almost 60-year shelf life. The genre of espionage fiction expanded significantly following WW2. During the so-called Cold War, when the globe was divided into East and West power blocks, Bond, like us, lives in a changing environment. What is the Mossad? Mossad is one of the world's most well-known, and some would argue, feared, intelligence services. It collaborates with sister organizations such as Amman, Military Intelligence, and Shin Bet, Israel's domestic security agency. As part of Israel's intelligence community, following the Holocaust and World War II, the establishment of the modern State of Israel in 1948 was greeted with instant Arab opposition. Mossad is the Western world's second-largest spy organization, behind the CIA, with an annual budget of roughly $3 billion and 7,000 employees. That makes the individual picked to lead Mossad very powerful. Yossi Cohen was succeeded by David "Daddy" Bernea in June 2021. The choice of a new Mossad leader is a highly guarded secret, known only to a few people in the Israeli Prime Minister's office, the agency, and the Civil Service Advisory Committee, whose members support the PM's decision. The cabinet and parliament are not involved. The name of Mossad's leader was previously unknown, but that changed in 1996 with the appointment of Major General Danny Yatom, a former deputy commander of the Israel Defense Forces. Mossad now releases the identity of the new head shortly after confirmation or at the start of the 5-year tenure. During the War of Independence, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq launched attacks against the budding state. Israel, which has faced an existential danger from its foundation, has required considerable military, security, and intelligence capabilities. The immediate problems were safeguarding the motherland from volatile and unfriendly neighbors, finding Nazi war criminals, and protecting and gathering in the diaspora. As a result, Mossad needed to establish itself swiftly, build strategic connections with other intelligence organizations, and fight to preserve Israeli interests on a worldwide scale. It earned a reputation for creativity, daring dedication, and merciless execution of executive activities. As a result, Mossad has had to be adaptable and highly proactive as threats to Israeli interests evolved, including the Six-Day War of 1967, the Yom Kippur War of 1973, the Lebanese Civil War, the end of the Cold War, the risks of nuclear proliferation in Iraq, and now Iran, and the rise of international terrorism. This initiative has often been lauded, yet errors have been made, resulting in detrimental diplomatic and critical public opinion, both at home and abroad. To dispel some of the mystique surrounding Mossad, evaluate its history and growth, mode of operation, and shifting goals and problems. This calls into question Mossad's role and skills in worldwide counter-terrorism and global espionage. Hello and welcome to the video for today. We talk about no big deal, James Bond. Mossad, anyone? But before we get there, to get alerted, subscribe to my channel and click the bell symbol anytime I make a new video available. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and spread the word. Let's get started. The establishment of Mossad. Mossad was established by order of Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, in 1951. This was part of a pre-independence reorganization of the security and intelligence apparatus aimed at both enhancing capabilities and assuring cross-functional cohesion. In 1948, the Haganah was incorporated into the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF. The Shai, Haganah's intelligence branch, became the principal military intelligence organization, later known as Amman. Shin Bet, a similar internal security body, was established in 1948, originally under the IDF but soon reporting directly to the Prime Minister. Throughout the 1930s and 1940s, the Aliyah Bet concentrated on facilitating Jewish immigration to British Palestine, understanding the risks presented by hostile regimes to diaspora Jews was one of its intelligence duties. Other intelligence strands included police intelligence and forging contacts with the worldwide intelligence community via the Israeli Foreign Ministry. The Institution for Intelligence and Special Operations, Mossad, was established as part of Ben-Gurion's reorganization. Its initial director was Reuven Shiloh, a close ally of Ben-Gurion, and one of its most vocal supporters. The main goal of the institute was to gather foreign information and safeguard the State of Israel from hostile international entities. Mossad received equipment, information, and operational assistance from the Central Information Agency, CIA, from its beginning. Initial Mossad operations. Unsurprisingly, Mossad conducted Nazi hunts in the wake of World War II. In 1960, the Mossad hunted down and captured Adolf Eichmann in Buenos Aires. Eichmann was a high-ranking Nazi who played a key role in the Holocaust's planning. Mossad traced him down, brought him back to Israel for criminal prosecution, and hung him. Mossad also hunted down and killed Latvian Nazi collaborator Herbert Kukers in Uruguay in 1965. Kukers is said to have been responsible for the massacre of 30,000 Latvian Jews. Mossad very certainly assisted Nazi hunters such as Simon Wiesenthal, Serge and Beate Klarsfeld, and others. Mossad also prioritized the development of human intelligence sources inside foreign forces and administrations. The placement of operatives like Eli Cohen, who penetrated the highest levels of Syrian society, is critical. Cohen's information, notably about Syrian military locations on the Golan Heights, was crucial during the 1967 Six-Day War. Existential dangers. Throughout its history, Mossad has focused on protecting Israel from existential threats: attack from hostile neighbors and alliances, terrorism, Hamas, Hezbollah, enhancing Israel's defensive capabilities, and acquiring weapons, nuclear materials, and technical know-how. Mossad's executive orders. Mossad has a history of assassinating enemies, including the deaths of nuclear scientists in Iraq and Iran, the assassination of supergun designer Gerald Bull in Brussels, and the targeting of members of Black September. Following the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre of Israeli athletes, Mossad has showed an ideological proclivity for both proactive and retributive attacks. Its goals have been to identify and avert potential dangers to Israeli interests. Priorities of Mossad's intelligence: monitoring hostile foreign intelligence and transnational terrorism is important in terms of goals and targets. Collection via a variety of sources goes beyond HUMINT and SIGINT, and gaining a grasp of global economies, defense capabilities, technology and electronics, illness, migration, and other elements is critical in constructing a cohesive intelligence picture. To comprehend the hierarchy of priorities, analyze the risks to Israel in the perspective of hostile actors' capabilities and purpose. For example, the spread of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq or Iran might pose a genuine existential danger to Israel's existence. Examples include the 1981 assault on the Osirak reactor in Baghdad, Shipler, 1981, and, more recently, the Stuxnet cyber attack on Iranian centrifuge control systems. With little progress in peace talks with the Palestinians and operating in a hostile area, Israel has become more diplomatically isolated. Understanding changing allegiances is critical, especially in light of the Arab Spring, the Sunni-Shia axis, and proxy warfare between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Beyond governmental actors, Israel faces boycott, divestment, and sanctions (BDS) movements, some of which may be supported by other states. Collecting and combating tales of BDS action is likely to be a priority, not least because of the potential long-term reputational and economic harm. Although diplomatic ties between Israel and some Arab countries may look icy in public, there is likely to be cooperation and back channels between security services. Israeli intelligence is likely to be watching friendly governments as well, not least to understand future foreign policy reactions and geopolitical shifts. The recruitment of Jonathan Pollard, who spent 30 years in prison for espionage against the United States, highlights the risks, balancing the difficulty. As a result, Mossad confronts a number of geopolitical and technological obstacles. It is exceedingly perilous to operate in hostile and volatile environments. In the Gaza Strip, alleged Mossad accomplices were publicly killed. Capture by a hostile state or terrorist organization is likely to result in torture and death. The decision of when to employ fatal force against opponents is likewise difficult. The danger of military or diplomatic repercussions from murdering a Hamas commander or bomb builder is often uncertain. Following the Cold War, Israel may have found itself increasingly politically isolated, and measures that risk greater isolation must be carefully weighed against security advantages. Failure or mishandled operations must be considered. The Swiss discovery of Mossad agents in 1998 or the mistaken identity shooting of Ahmed Bouchiki in Norway in 1973 highlight a serious difficulty. It is critical to never be incorrect and to avoid being detected. Due to declining diasporas, the availability of recruits from Arab nations with cultural and linguistic skills may be decreasing. The availability of such recruits during Israel's independence is believed to have aided Mossad's early capabilities. However, Israeli culture remains militarized, and national service serves as a talent spotting and recruiting pool for Israel's numerous intelligence services. Israel is a technology innovation leader, with several private cyber and physical security enterprises. As a result, connections to business and academics have matured. The difficulty for Mossad and others is determining how to effectively use technical innovation in artificial intelligence, big data, cybersecurity, and so on, without harming the local technology industry and exports. Any identified effort to transport altered equipment or software, or to operate via a front technological business, might have a significant negative impact on faith in Israeli exports, keeping intelligence and security effectiveness. Against this context, it is useful to evaluate Mossad's performance by examining some of its important triumphs and failures, as neither Mossad nor the Israeli government is likely to openly comment on many of these, especially current, operations. Participation of Mossad should be treated as alleged. Mossad's capability in long-range operations in South America was shown by the Eichmann arrest and execution of Nazi war criminals. Mossad's capacity to find, abduct, or assassinate, then flee was undeniable. The deployment of operatives Eli Cohen in Syria and Wolfgang Lotz in Egypt resulted in victories against enemy countries, but both were ultimately detected, with Cohen being executed and Lotz imprisoned. A noteworthy coup was the recruitment of Iraqi pilot Munir Redfa and his defection to Israel in 1966. Together with a Russian MiG-21 aircraft, Israel was able to obtain and then exchange military information about advanced Russian aircraft. During Operation Noah in 1969, operatives liberated missile boats from Cherbourg, which had been embargoed by French President Charles de Gaulle, following the murder of Israeli athletes at the 1972 Munich Olympics. Operation Wrath of God was launched to track down and punish the culprits of Black September. In a very successful attack on Uganda's Entebbe airport in 1976, Israel proved its hostage rescue expertise in Operation Thunderbolt. Mossad was vital to Israel's nuclear program, with an alleged front business used to buy considerable quantities of yellow cake. Mossad has played a critical role in combating hostile state and terrorist threats to Israel while also developing top-tier military intelligence and weapons capacity. As a result, Mossad's reputation as one of the world's top intelligence services is likely well-deserved. However, not all procedures have gone off without a hitch. The disclosure of surveillance actions against the United States and Switzerland generated considerable consternation. The murder of an innocent waitress in Lillehammer, Norway, and the following arrest and punishment of agents demonstrates human frailty. The assassination of Mahmoud al-Mabhouh in Dubai, although undoubtedly a successful operation, drew widespread worldwide condemnation. The use of forged British, Irish, German, and French passports by criminals sparked intense diplomatic hostility. If the operation was carried out by Mossad, it exhibited proficiency in planning, execution, and evasion. With the advent of CCTV cameras, photographs of the suspects circulated throughout the globe. This exemplifies a crucial issue for modern agents: escaping notice and identification in the face of a panopticon of public scrutiny. Mossad looks to be the most similar to the CIA in terms of family connection. Both have the capacity and desire to operate across a broad spectrum of intelligence capabilities, as well as pursue targeted assassinations and executive acts. Immigration into both nations has defined features. However, diaspora immigration into Israel may be more consistent in terms of identity. As a result, Mossad has profited from the availability of loyal and motivated operatives with linguistic and cultural abilities from the Western, Arab, and former Soviet countries. The capacity of Israel and Mossad to influence Middle East events positions it as a power broker across the Sunni-Shia axis. Some portray Israel as a pariah in public, but there are definitely other backchannels through which Mossad participates in shared security issues with ostensibly hostile regional neighbors. The Mossad was charged by Israel's president, Yitzhak Ben-Zvi, with retrieving and returning to Israel a renowned and ancient copy of the Hebrew Bible known as the Aleppo Codex II. They were also engaged in the acquisition of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The recovery of old biblical writings and archaeological objects is not a typical intelligence agency job, but it is one in which the Mossad has been involved on multiple occasions. In front of the Iron Curtain, the Mossad helped fund and coordinate covert teaching of Judaism and the Hebrew language to Jews behind the Iron Curtain during the Soviet era. As part of Israel's sense of responsibility for global Jewry and the survival of the Jewish people, it was also in charge of the clandestine and dangerous mass immigration of Jews to Israel from countries like as Ethiopia III, Morocco, and Egypt. The Mossad carried out a clandestine operation to rescue Ethiopian Jews and transport them to Israel. The Mossad was most recently active in procuring medical equipment and information to fight COVID-19. None of these activities were military or intelligence gathering in character, but were part of the Mossad's wider job of defending Israel and the Jewish people as a whole. The Rabbi of the Mossad. Aside from that, the Mossad is unusual among intelligence organizations in that it is the only espionage agency in the world with its own rabbi. According to Israeli media reports, the Mossad appointed a staff rabbi to provide religious guidance and rulings for agents in Israel and abroad. A large percentage of officers and soldiers in the Israel Defense Forces are religiously observant Jews. And because the Mossad frequently recruits from the IDF, the number of observant agents has grown. These agents often seek the direction of Jewish law and ethics and need the services of a rabbi. The IDF has a chaplaincy section, but resolving ethical, legal, and guiding problems for clandestine operatives needs a rabbi with security expertise and experience, as well as a high-level security clearance. Unlike other rabbis, who publish their legal opinions for peer review and educational reasons, the Mossad rabbi's rulings and identity remain classified. Jewish ethical spy problems. What are some of the issues that the spy rabbi could face? When an undercover spy is in a hostile environment, he or she must avoid doing or possessing anything that might disclose their true identity. Obviously, a smartphone app for a Jewish prayer book, a pair of tefillin, a yarmulke, or Shabbat candelabra are hardly the best equipment for a spy. Non-observance of the commandments, non-kosher food, and non-observance of Shabbat are all givens for a spy in enemy territory or on an operation. There are numerous precedents for this for security reasons, some dating back to biblical times. such as soldiers on the front lines eating non-kosher food, and fighting even on the Sabbath. One of the most famous Mossad agents, Eli Cohen, lived in Damascus for years, and conveyed vital intelligence to Israel, before his capture and execution in May 1965. When an agent, such as Eli Cohen, goes on furlough, and returns to his family by a convoluted path, should he schedule his homecoming for Rosh Hashanah, to hear the shofar blowing, Passover to participate in the Seder, or Purim to hear the Megillah being read? A similar issue was posed to Rabbi David ibn Zimra, chief rabbi of the Jews of Egypt, by a Jew imprisoned in Egypt in the 16th century. The prisoner was given permission to leave for a day by the governor, so he asked the rabbi when he should plan his vacation. Rabbi David ibn Zimra said emphatically that the prisoner should seize the first chance and fulfill the first commandment that presents itself. He based his decision on a renowned Talmudic idea, that one may not pass over a mitzvah. 11. That is, when you have a chance to accomplish a mitzvah, a commandment, you must take it and not let it pass you by. This is a Jewish equivalent of carpe diem. He further contends that in such situations, one never knows what the future may hold, if the chance will be accessible, or even whether he will be alive. Hence, as the rabbi stated, seize the moment. I suppose the Mossad rabbi would rule similarly for one of the agents. The honey trap. In espionage movies, honey traps are scenes in which an enemy agent or informant is enticed by an agent and persuaded to turn or tell, or is brought into a scenario in which they are abducted or murdered. Mordecai Vanunu, an Israeli scientist, who worked in Israel's top-secret nuclear program, traveled to London and contacted media, promising to divulge Israel's nuclear secrets. He was befriended and seduced by a lady named Cindy, went to Italy to party with her, was abducted by the Mossad, and served 18 years in Israeli prison. Is such conduct acceptable for either a man or a woman? With the exclusion of idolatry, murder, and sexual immorality, Jewish law prioritizes the preserving of life above all other commandments. To preserve one's life, one may not worship an idol or apostatize. Similarly, one may not kill an innocent third party to save one's life, nor may one commit incest or adultery to save one's life. If this is the case, it seems that a honey trap is prohibited. However, there are some intriguing biblical precursors to this as well. Esther, the heroine of the Purim story, saved the entire Jewish people by marrying Achashverosh, the Persian king, finding favor in his eyes and using her influence to save the Jews. Rabbi Yechezkel Landau, one of the greatest Jewish legal authorities in history, saw Esther as a justification for this, but only in a situation where the person involved would be, like Esther, saving the entire Jew. Another biblical example featured Yael during a conflict with the Canaanites. The Canaanite army had been crushed, but Sisera, the commander, had escaped and was returning home to rebuild and spearhead another invasion. He passed through the village of the Kenites, where Yael invited him to her tent, seduced him, and, while he was sleeping, drove a tent peg through his temple, killing him. The prophetess, Deborah, praises Yael for her heroism, and according to the Talmud is a classic example of one who performs a sin for the sake of heaven. 20. Vengeance killing. Another moral dilemma that has emerged is the concept of vengeance. Clearly, killing a terrorist who is planning an attack, or one who recruits, funds, or organizes terror, is not retaliation, but rather self-defense, in accordance with the famous Talmudic precept, one who is coming to kill you, arise early and kill him first. Also, if a terrorist knows he will be hunted down, even after retiring, even if he changes careers to a peaceful pursuit, he may think twice about acting. It may be claimed, however, that an old Nazi war criminal no longer constitutes a danger to the Jewish people. One may argue that vengeance, even against someone who is no longer a danger, can prevent others considering acts of hostility. It is also possible that when our people are attacked, it is considered an act of war and thus justifies retaliation. According to Saadia Gaon, a medieval Jewish philosopher, the desire to take revenge was planted in the soul of humans, in order that God's justice might be carried out against evildoers. the prosperity of mankind would so be served. The Mossad operatives are carrying on a history that dates back thousands of years, not just in terms of tactics and security, but also in seeking Judaism's perspective on the ethical, legal, and moral elements of their position. The Mossad's official insignia is an old menorah encircled with the Proverbs phrase, "Where there is no strategy, the people fall. But in the abundance of counsel there is salvation." The menorah represents the light of Jewish knowledge and the Jewish people's eternity. The Mossad supplies and helps the State of Israel's strategy, provides guidance and assistance to its political and military leaders, and is concerned with the overall well-being of the Jewish people. Conclusion: the Israeli military and intelligence apparatus are considered world-class. Given Israel's small size and limited resources and budget, its impact and skills are admirable. Israel has undoubtedly profited from symbiotic work with several Western countries and intelligence organizations due to its tight ties with the US and CIA. Diaspora populations provide Mossad with reach, but exposing these communities to retaliation is a danger that must be managed carefully. Mossad has a somewhat mythologized reputation as a relentless avenger, which may serve as a deterrent to would-be hostile actors. Its powers are extensive, and when combined with Shin Bet and Amman, it is powerful. Throughout the 1980s, Mossad blunders harmed Israel's credibility, both internationally and domestically. Mossad operations are therefore potentially even more covert, despite the fact that the execution of Hamas chief Mahmoud al-Mabhouh and claims surrounding the Stuxnet virus have maintained public attention. From the 1948 War of Independence to the 1967 Six-Day War and the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Mossad has adapted to changing threat characteristics. The end of the Cold War in 1989 had a huge regional influence as well. Mossad has undoubtedly reoriented itself to the reality of a post-Arab Spring world, and it must maintain this agility and flexibility as political, social, and technical upheaval sweeps the area. The stakes are enormous for Israel, and it is likely to see all but its closest friends as temporary. A peace agreement with the Palestinians might have a favorable influence on regional security, albeit this seems to be a long way off. Mossad, by monitoring the purpose and capacity of Hamas and other parties, may be able to secure or create room for resumed political discussions. That concludes today's video. Thank you for taking the time to view this eye-opening video. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more groundbreaking content. Please subscribe if you appreciate this video. Share it with your friends and like it on Facebook. Goodbye and have a pleasant day.